I'm the sort of person that always sets goals, and it's really important for me to have a challenge so that I can push myself to actually achieve it. My trip takes me through 28 different African countries and covers 40,000 miles, and actually is a fifth of the world's surface area.
Spencer, when he decides to do something, he is a determined character and he's a strong character. But I must say that this came as a bit of a surprise, quite frankly. 28,000 miles around Africa on his own, without any support, is quite a task. It's a challenge.
The sacrifice I've had to make, obviously, is I've got to give up my family for a year. I have 2 girls, and it's going to be difficult for them, and it's going to be difficult for me, but I hope they'll be proud when I return.
Well, obviously, I'm really proud of him, and I really hope he can do this, but I'm slightly worried, especially about countries that are dangerous.
Of course it's reckless. Spencer does have a habit of living on the edge.
Obviously, we're all going to miss him, but we know that he can do this and he will come back safely.
I admire and respect people who try these extreme challenges.
I think the appeal about motorcycling is that it is a very free-spirited adventure, in the sense that you are alone with the machine, you need to feel the machine, and at the same time you're getting overload on your senses because you're seeing new landscapes, new people, and you have to stay very, very alert all the time.
Finally, after a year of planning, the day has arrived for Spencer to pack his bag and set off on his epic journey. The British weather turns up in all its splendour, as does the entire village, family and friends, to wish Spencer the luck he will need.
All ready to go now. Nice weather.
Bikers who've heard about this ambitious journey also turn up to ride with him to Dover, where he'll board the ferry to France. With this send-off, he can't change his mind and run off to the nearest cosy pub. Spencer's plan is to ditch his soaking wet biker mates and cross the English Channel at Folkestone to Calais. From there, he'll travel 1,000 kilometres through France to Marseille. At Marseille, he'll leave the land of garlic and casseroles to catch the overnight ferry to the land of hummus and kebabs, Tunisia, which will be the start of his African adventure.
It's really weird. I'm doing this because I have to, but I don't feel in the mood because I've just driven through France in the pouring rain. Respect to everybody who helped me out, and I'm gonna make it. It's day 1 of 365 days. If I get back.
Spencer's ambition for this epic adventure is not only to complete his journey within 1 year, but to achieve this on less than €20 a day. This will need to cover all fuel, food, accommodation, visas, bribes and any other costs. He'll also be recording the whole trip on a diary cam, which he's never used before.
Diary cams are going to get better, it's just a matter of practice really. Smells in here.
Safely on board the ferry at Marseille, Spencer steams away from the garlic breath of France to make the 22-hour crossing to Port Tunis in Tunisia. Formerly a French colony, Tunisia borders Algeria and Libya. Immediately upon arrival, Spencer gets straight on his bike and heads south for 300 kilometres towards the Libyan border.
Right, I'm in a place called Sfax in the east coast of Tunisia, about halfway down the country, and what I've got to do tomorrow is I've got to get out of this crazy city, and what I've decided to do is stick the helmet camera on. Even though there's police on every corner, they're probably going to stop me, but it's worth a try. Just want you to get some sort of idea of how hectic it is.
Suffering from stress face and what's known as white line fever, Spencer races across Tunisia through Gabes and Medellin, clocking up 350 kilometres in 1 day, to reach the Libyan border at Ras Al-Jir. Travelling in Libya is heavily restricted. The only way Spencer can be permitted to cross this vast country is to be escorted. The moment he crosses the border, he's met by two chain-smoking Libyans in need of dental care and their car. Spencer's only option is to follow their Deu Leganza for the next 3 days in order to cross Libya and reach the Egyptian border.
Good morning, it's day 7. Excellent day. Yesterday got picked up at the border, Libyan-Tunisian border, by two guys, Mohammed and Sam. Bit chaotic, but we got through. Driver, Mohammed, he just jumped in the car, it's typical African style, said, follow me, 120, 130, 140 kilometers an hour through traffic. He nearly crashed about 6 times. So today I'm just not going to let him push it, I'm going to take it easy.
At a slower pace, Spencer makes good progress along the coast road through Tripoli. At Al-Khums, he visits the Roman ruin Leptis Magna, then continues on to Benghazi and Tobruk. Finally, after 3 days and 1,500 kilometres, he parts company with his new mates when he reaches the Egyptian border at El Saloum. Egypt borders Libya, Sudan, Israel and the Gaza Strip. It has a surprisingly large population of 84 million, who mainly live along the Nile, because the rest of the place is desert. After only 10 days on the road, Spencer has crossed 4 borders, averaging one country every 2.5 days. Although clearly still in the grip of white line fever, he's beginning to settle into his journey.
Yeah, when you read in the books about long-distance travelling and adventure riding and all that business, you read things and you think, yeah, right, but you know, it all falls into place after a while. You've got to set up routine. On my left-hand inside pocket are my spare keys. On my right inside pocket is my mobile phone. At the bottom of my right trouser leg is my passport. On the bottom of my left trouser leg is my money. It organises your brain and you got less worries, especially when you're going through a hectic border. Egyptian border, you know, 500 people pushing you around, hands everywhere, no personal space here at all, absolutely none. Okay, I'm in a place called Marsha Matrush and it's really beautiful. I just wanted to tell you about the best meal I've had so far on this trip. There were these 5 guys in the desert and they were cooking up a meal and they called me over. It was absolutely brilliant. We had seasoned meat, we had unleavened bread, we had a salad with sort of diced carrots, tomatoes and whole chilies, and they were really great. They also had a hawk. Anyway, they weren't too keen on me filming them, but I managed to persuade them after a while, after they'd hidden their guns for some reason. I don't know, I thought you allowed guns here.
After showing his gratitude for a meal served by 5 guys with loaded guns, Spencer travels the 450 kilometres to Cairo to get a visa for Sudan. Deciding to stay one night, he finds some low-budget accommodation downtown.
Okay, this is the hotel I'm staying at, in the middle of Cairo. That's the roof, you can see in perfect condition. It cost me about £3 to stay here. Here's reception. Feel at home away from home. I certainly don't. See, they have made an effort. Look, this place is hilarious. The restaurant. And here it is. There we go. Class.
After getting the Sudanese visa sorted and experiencing the luxury accommodation of Cairo, Spencer skips the pyramid tour and heads south along the fertile banks of the famous River Nile. His next destination is Luxor.
I've noticed this, because this is a bit off the beaten track, so I've come into some little towns, there's been 4 or 5 junctions, and you have to drive around. You ask someone, same old story, he says one way. You ask someone else and he says, no, it's the other way. So you find out from about 5 people, and if 3 of them agree, you go for it. I've arrived in Luxor and I'm standing on the banks of the River Nile. How brilliant is that? And maybe in the distance in a minute you'll be able to see the iconic Valley of the Kings. I'm staying in the Bob Marley hostel which has got all the cliches. It's got Che Guevara posters, Bob Marley posters, Kurt Cobain posters, that kind of thing. It's kind of like my bedroom when I was 18. It's nice after Cairo to be in this relaxed place. I'm waiting for Diesel film crew to come, and we'll see, you know, what happens with the filming. We're filming all the way down to Aswan, and then my next step is Aswan to Wadi Halfa, 22-hour ferry, and then I'm in Sudan. Brilliant.
Before Spencer left England, he received free laser eye treatment. In return, the laser company requested an advert to be shot during his journey. After spending a lot of time trying to find a suitable location, the camera crew finally started filming at a Nubian village on the banks of the Nile. To complete the picture, they borrow a camel from a friendly local. Spencer is not a TV presenter, nor does he have any ambitions as an actor. But with numerous takes, he manages to spit out the script. However, there were a few outtakes.
Laser. I really didn't feel it. I didn't feel... Yeah, it's getting better. That was more natural, wasn't it? Don't let poor vision hold you back. That was better. That was more... As far as... It's allowed me to dream up these adventures. And now, here I am, taking on the biggest challenge of my life. That's it.
With an Oscar-winning performance from Spencer and some action riding shots filmed in the desert, the commercial for laser eye treatment is completed. As Diesel Films heads back to Blighty, Spencer moves on to the Aswan Dam to catch a ferry across Lake Nasser to Sudan.
It's day 36, and basically I'm waiting at the port, Aswan port, and these are the guys that I've met along the way. It's the first bikers I've come across, actually.
After a long wait, Spencer and his fellow bikers board the ferry and find space on deck to sleep for the overnight voyage to Wadi Halfa.
Okay, good morning. I've got to speak pretty quietly, so I hope you can hear me above the engine. If you want to get down into sub-Saharan Africa, you have to catch this ferry. And as it stands now, we got on the ferry at 9 o'clock yesterday morning, and it didn't go till 10 o'clock at night. It was absolutely freezing, and the worst thing is I'm sleeping right by the very edge of the boat. This is how I slept, I'll show you.
Looking like a bank robber, Spencer enters Sudan at the Lake Nasser port of Wadi Halfa. The area of Darfur in western Sudan is known globally for its terrible famine and civil war. It's estimated 2.8 million people have been displaced and 300,000 killed during the crisis.
Right, it's the 9th today, so it's the 40th day of my trip. So down below me is the hotel where we stayed. It's down over there. Now, the thing about that hotel is it's not a hotel at all. It's kind of like it's like a backpacker's, but a little bit less. It's got sand floor and that sort of business. It's still arid around here. People have already changed here. They're fully Sudanese. They're much blacker, much taller. We've seen people taller than me, which is surprising compared to Egypt. But so far, everything's great. It's all going well. Quite sunburnt, but that's to be expected. I'm in the desert. It's very, very hot. I know I keep saying that, but around my feet on the bike, it's really hot. Got this cool breeze when you're going but quite fast, which is about 70, maximum 80.
Spencer's route through Sudan from Wadi Halfa follows the Nile to Dongola, and in the capital, Khartoum. From there, he travels along the Blue Nile to Wad Madani. Here he finds more luxury accommodation, which includes an ensuite bathroom and a laundry room for his 3 socks.
Right, I'm fighting against time because of the light, but I've just arrived at my destination and I just wanted to tell you about my day, which was absolutely brilliant. Now, I've ended up in a place called Wad Madani, which is about 3-4 hours away from the Ethiopian border. I should actually be at the border, but I've had 4 flats. Now, why did I have a wonderful day? Well, the tyre was going down, came past this place and saw tyres and everything, and thought, oh God, I'll go in there and he can sort it out. Went in there, there's a really great guy. We basically worked together and fixed it. It was a big cut. A rip in, and he sewed it up like you sew up things, and then he put a double patch on it and it's absolutely perfect. So that was great. People great, riding great. Okay, I left Wad Madani in Sudan this morning about 5:30, and I've been driving for 2 hours. I can't be that far from the Ethiopian border, and at last the sort of landscape's beginning to change a little bit. Getting out of the desert, sort of, at last, after 4 countries of it.
Before Spencer leaves Sudan, he visits the typical roadside fast food outlet and orders himself the fresh local delicacy.
There we are, this is our food. We're going to eat it.
Yes.
Ethiopia has a population of 93 million, making it the most populated landlocked country in the world.
Right, I've been in Ethiopia for about an hour and I'm absolutely blown away by the place. It is beautiful. The change from Sudan is just incredible. I'm not saying Sudan isn't beautiful, but everything's changed. The people have changed, the clothing has changed. They look a lot poorer, but a lot happier. They're a lot more friendly so far. The scenery is absolutely stunning. The riding is completely different now. I've gone down to 40 kilometers an hour because you've got no idea what's around each corner, but it's great.
Spencer's route through Ethiopia will take him to the 17th century city of Gondar. He will then head to the capital, Addis Ababa. From there, he'll journey south for 800 kilometers to the Kenyan border at Moyale.
Right, I'm in the middle of Gondar, and I'm in this Gondar castle. It's just unbelievable. This is such a beautiful town, absolutely beautiful. This place is weird because, well, 300 years ago it was the second biggest capital in the whole of Africa for about 200 years. So it's quite a historic place. No way up.
At the old ruins of Gondar, Spencer meets up with another blast from the past, his hairy mate Carl, who he first met at the ferry port of Wadi Halfa in Sudan.
It's nice there.
Spencer and Carl decide to camp in the city, giving them a perfect excuse to pass on their Boy Scout tips.
A couple of things about camping. You don't need a big tent. You can actually make it from the north to the south of Africa almost without a tent because there's always places to stay. My opinion is take a tent, but don't take a tent like these German guys that are with me, but it's just typical. Have a look. You can fit 20 Germans in there and maybe 60 Ethiopians. That's more the kind of thing that you want. See the size difference?
After a night in Gondar, Spencer continues his journey towards Kenya. As he nears the border, he hears more and more reports about lawless bandits operating in northern Kenya. The area is becoming notorious for attacks and shootings on tourists. Carl has managed to hitch a ride on a 4x4. Handy with a camera, he films Spencer as they journey towards the border.
I'm getting a little bit nervous now. I'm just about 45 minutes from the border, Moyale border, and there's been some trouble there. Basically what happened was 4 people got hijacked by Samburu tribesmen, everything got stolen, and then they were stripped naked and shot. I think I'm stalling slightly because I'm a bit nervous about getting over there, so just sort of holding off a bit. Okay, I don't really know what to say. It's New Year tomorrow. We're in Moyale on the border with Kenya. Behind me is the convoy that's going. The reason they've got this convoy is because people are getting shot. Pretty scared at the moment. I'm going on my own. Carl's managed to get a lift with 3 English guys in a Land Cruiser, so I'm going to stick close with them. I didn't really want to make this kind of report, but we've been told by a couple of people, so that's that. Let's hope I make another report.
Spencer makes it safely over the border and continues travelling alongside Carl and his 4x4 buddies. His plan for the next few days is to travel the 1,300-kilometre route from the border crossing at Moyale to Marsabit, and then on to Isiolo, and finally to Kenya's capital, Nairobi. But progress is slowed as he keeps sitting down for a break.
Say that again. Well, the back tyre's a road tyre and it's completely bald. So in this mud here, it just won't hold the road. I got my boot wedged in here. I nearly broke my foot there. Check it out. I just got out. Look at that. I just dived out the way, but it caught my foot. Right, just came down from Moyale. It's 250 kilometres and we're down in Marsabit. Had a little bit of a prank. Injured my ribs, injured my shoulder, but it's nothing serious. And a little scratch on my back, which I'll show you now, because I'm sure the audience want to see my... So it's time for a shower, time for some food, and recharge the batteries for tomorrow.
Back on the road, Spencer's rear wheel is taking a battering, causing a series of punctures. Because Spencer has to constantly stop for repairs, he becomes separated from the convoy and's left to fend for himself.
Okay, I'm facing one of the biggest problems I've faced so far. I've had 5 punctures. It's about 40 degrees. I'm in the middle of nowhere. This is the state of my bike. Got a guy to help me. They're going to go and look for glue. And this is the road I'm going down to Isiolo.
With glue found by the locals, the puncture is repaired. But Spencer is about to face a much greater and potentially fatal incident, literally around the corner.
Just tell you what happened yesterday, because it's a bit weird and a bit frightening. 7:30 in the morning, I was driving along, and then on the top of the hill I saw 3 guys, and immediately one of them pulled up a gun and shot at me. And then there was a second shot, so I went down on the bike and I carried on riding. But then I think the third bullet must have hit the brake and the wheel, because everything just went, and the wheel, you can see it's in a bad state. But I picked up the bike, they came running down the hill, and I rode off. But then the problem was the wheel was punctured. I didn't have any repair kit, so I carried on driving, and unfortunately all the spokes got broken. Yeah, pretty much the most hectic day I've had on this trip so far. That's about all I can say at the moment, because my head's not really very together.
The bike is unrideable, and Spencer is in a state of shock. Fortunately, he manages to make contact with Carl, who was waiting for him 100 kilometers away in Isiolo. Somehow, Carl manages to organize a truck to rescue Spencer and his busted bike. They head to the relative safety of Nairobi, where Spencer will have the time to consider the near-fatal shooting and whether he still has the will to continue.